So let's get straight into the new patch rundown for the upcoming patch 14.17 on Wednesday. We're also going to do a meta read at the very end to give you a head start on what to play starting on the new patch. Remember to sign up for the Fitgmr Fall Cup. We still have about a month until we start. You can win big, you learn an insane amount for only $20, and remember this is catered for silvers to diamonds only. One thing to note is you only have to be within this rank requirement as you sign up. So if you're diamond right now, you could still sign up and then climb to masters within the next month. That is perfectly fine. All right, patch 14.17. So a couple things that we're going to talk about today. We're going to start off with our traits and units as always. Moving on to our items and augments. Items is going to include your regular items, your artifacts, your support items, and also your radiant items. And then there are a lot of charm changes, 2 whole pages worth of charm changes, new charms, nerfs, and buffs. At the very end, we're going to do a recap and a Q&A for anyone who is watching this live. Okay, so let's get straight into the trait changes. A lot of buffs here. So let's start off here. So the Arcana traits, there are going to be 2 different changes here. The first one is going to be to the actual emblem. So the base damage on these emblems are going to be increased. This is an adjustment. So what this means is that for the Arcana emblems, it's going to be a lot stronger if you have less emblems, but it'll be weaker if you have more emblems. So right now what's happening is the damage amp per emblem was just incredibly high. If you had a lot of emblems, either from like Trait Tracker or Flexible, and you got an Arcana emblem, you'd be doing an insane amount of damage amp. So this is kind of just balancing and makes it so then you don't need an insane amount of emblems in order to use the Arcana emblem mod. Moving on to the Hecarim bonus AD. So on the 4-5 Arcana breakpoint, you'll be getting a little bit more AD on your Hecarim. Not bad, but I think it's still going to be either like Tahm Kench or Xerath, especially late game. Moving on, 6 and 8 Bastion, a little bit more resistances, nothing too crazy. 4 and 6 Chrono has a pretty large change. So for 4 Chrono, so now you're having another 0.5 second of the time freeze where only Chrono units are attacking. You're also having 10 more AP. So instead of seconds, it's supposed to be AP. And then also instead of 4 pieces, it's supposed to be the 6 piece, where the bonus attack speed is going from 60% to 80%. So I wanted to clarify that because the actual patch notes, the wording is a little bit off. So it's the 4-piece time increase, 4-piece AP, and then 6-piece attack speed. So that is what the changes are going to be for Chrono. Moving on, 7 Eldritch, the AP per star level is going up. Same with the base HP for 7 Eldritch. Eldritch is not played that often right now, so maybe this will give it a little nudge into the meta. Honeymancy, the number of bees is going up for 5 and 7, so it's pretty good. And then last but not least, we have our 4 to 6 Hunter, the base 80, and also the 80% on takedown is getting increased. One thing I forgot to mention is the Arcana for Xerath. So this is the default for late game. The true damage is incredibly strong, and for every 3 charms, you'll be getting your next, iteration of true damage, or your next addition. This is going to be nerfed at the higher breakpoints, the 4 and 5 Arcana. That's the first changes to the traits. Moving on, we have more of verticals here. So 6 and 9 Fairy are getting a buff, not only to the actual crown's damage amp, but also to the queen's armor, HP, and armor magic resist. So this is going to be the resistances going on to your Rakan at the 6 Fairy breakpoint. One thing to note is the Monarch's Crown. So this is going to be your Radiant Crown. Once you reach 9 Fairy, the damage amp is after 25 attacks is going from 15 to 50%. So this really makes 9 Fairy more of those like kind of win out verticals instead of just hit it and then get your 4th place. So this really puts it more on the power of those like very high prismatic vertical traits. 4 in Cancer, the AP is getting increased by 10. 7 and 9 Mage AP is getting increased. This is a little bit concerning because I think mages are already very strong in the meta, has an insanely high win rate because of the very high cap, and it's also quite stable, and there are going to be more buffs to mages. So you will see this later. This will also be reiterated, or I guess like restated at the very end of the video in the meta read. 5 Multi-Striker getting a little bit of a buff. Shapeshifter Vertical is getting a buff to the 4, 6, and 8 breakpoints for the HP. So this is going to be pretty good for Shapeshifter boards. There are also another line of Shapeshifter Hunter that I'll be talking about, so keep that in mind. And then 6 Vanguard, the durability while shielded is going up at the 6 breakpoint to 15%. A couple adjustments here. So Portal here, the bomb damage is being decreased at 6 and 8 breakpoints. However, the flag is being increased and also the heal is being increased. So now this essentially means that your portal units will be getting more of the buff from the vertical portal, but the actual portal will be doing less damage because the bomb will be doing less damage. So I actually think this is overall buff, getting 2 buffs here to the flag and the portal stacks. And remember, the portal stacks is at all breakpoints. However, the bomb does go down at the 6 and 8 breakpoints. Pyro is getting another change as well. So the way to interpret this is essentially Pyro is becoming less of a selfish individual trait and being more catered towards the team. So now the team attack speed percentages are going to be increased. The actual individual's Pyro's attack speed are going to be decreased, and also the execute threshold is going to be decreased as well. So now Pyro, I think, is going to be more of like a splash trait. 5 Pyro is probably still going to be very good if you're able to get that, especially on like a Smolder. However, now this is going to be more team oriented. And then the very last one is Sugarcraft getting a little bit of a change as well. Instead of just being focused on like the insane bonus reward breakpoints, now the actual trait will be providing some pretty good combat. So the base AD and AP are being increased. However, the breakpoints are going to be increased as well and will be harder to hit. So that's how you would interpret these trait changes, and that's it. So we're going to move on to the 1 cost units now. A lot of buffs to the 1 cost. So this is going to be the second Jace buff in a row. Now the base AD going up by 5. The previous Jace buff was just to his 3-star damage, and you're not really rerolling Jace. Maybe now you are, especially if you hit like Spider Queen and Vertical Shapeshifters. Maybe, but this is just still the second Jace buff. Second Soraka buff, so this is actually quite notable now. The initial, or the previous Soraka buff, it was just to her damage. Now her damage is being increased again, and the spell healing is being increased. So now 3 mages early game, I think will actually be pretty decent, especially if you have a Vex, and Soraka will actually be quite a decent item holder instead of just always itemizing Seraphine. Nomsy and Twitch are getting their spell AD increased at all star levels, so this is going to perhaps open up a reroll line. At the very end, we'll talk about this in a meta read, and then Ziggs mana is going down by 10. That's for the 1 cost. 2 cost has a little bit more juice here, so let's talk about the buffs first. So Shyvana is receiving a 2nd buff. Previously, it was to her damage, turning her more from like a magic tank into a magic fighter. Now her resistances are also going up, and her AP spell ratio is going up. Keep in mind that this is going to be her 2nd buff. Oops, this is going to be her 2nd buff, and then also there is a buff to vertical shapeshifters, and there's also buffs to Nomsy plus Twitch. So that's something to note. This is a little bit concerning, but should be fine. Cassiopeia base attack speed is going up, and also Syndra buffs. So hopefully Syndra is not just going to take over everything again. I think it's fine. These are not too crazy. It's more so her cast timing that nerfed her to the ground. Now it's just going to be her damage coming back. In regards of nerfs, Akali, so the Kunai damage is when she dashes, and then the next 3 attacks is going to be like this Kunai damage. So now these next 3 attacks, the AD is down, so she'll be doing less damage. And regarding Ahri, so Ahri, this is going to now be her 2nd nerf. The first one came from the B patch, so this is what happened. Basically, it affected her true damage, and also her passive bonus AP was cut in half. So that was the first one. Now her 2nd one, it's attacking the true damage again, and then the actual spell damage. So this is pretty big now. I don't know if Ahri will still be, I don't want to say playable, but she definitely will not be as good as she was previously. And there's also a couple different nerfs to her line as well. So that's for 2 costs. And then moving on to 3 costs here, pretty decent amount, so I'll go over it pretty quickly. Hecarim is getting a lot of buffs to his HP, his mana, his charge 80%, and also his cleave 80%. Now Hecarim will actually be a pretty decent unit. Swain, his base resistances are going up, so his armor and magic resist. Same with his HP on cast. The only thing that will be going down is his damage on his first cast, but that's fine. Swain is just a tank and isn't really doing damage anyway. Here is where we get a little bit into the sus zone. So Vex and Veigar are getting buffed. Technically, there's a little bit of an adjustment to his 3-star, but going down by 5 spell damage, that's not going to do anything. So Veigar and Vex already being very, very good composition in the current meta. Now the shield is going up at 1 and 2-star for Vex, and also the damage is going up for 1 and 2-star for Veigar. So what does this mean? It means for one of the highest cap compositions in the meta, now you'll be even more stable and on 1 and 2-star versions of the composition. And also there was a Soraka buff to her damage and her healing as well. So I think mages are going to be extremely strong in the upcoming meta, or at least on the upcoming patch. And there will probably be at least 1 or 2 mage players per lobby. I think there already is. And then Shen durability, it's been increased to be more catered towards his scaling as he starts up. couple adjustments here. Jinx. So currently on live, her kit is just bugged. So what happens is essentially her ability true damage, it doesn't scale with any bonus AD. So that's why on the current patch, attack speed items are much more effective on Jinx than AD items. So now the bug is being fixed. In return, her base AD is going down, her spell attack speed is going down, and also her true damage 80% is lowered as well. So you might think this is a pretty big nerf. Keep in mind that the Hunter trait is getting buffed as well. Same with the 2 Sugarcraft trait. So it's not essentially just burning Jinx to the ground. I think she'll actually be in a pretty decent spot. Mordekaiser, small adjustment, 1-star buff, 3-star nerf, nothing too crazy here. I actually think there's more of a nerf. Like the 3-star spell shield is a lot greater than the 10 bonus spell shield on his initial. And then how to interpret the Nico changes. So once you add flat HP healing into a unit's kit, it makes them a lot stronger at the weaker version, so like the 1 and 2-star levels. However, at her 3-star, this will be considered more of a nerf. So Nico 1 and 2 will be stronger, and Nico 3 will be weaker. So that was all the 3 cost units. Moving on to 4 cost units. Gwen is, I think, going to be a pretty decent carry in the upcoming patch. Not only was her mana reduced, her casts per snip snack was cut in half as well. So these work extremely well together, being able to cast more often because of less mana. And also you require, well, every cast now will increase her snip snack damage. But her base spell damage goes down and also her snip damage goes down. But then Sugarcraft has a buff to resist, or buff to AD and AP as well. So I think Gwen is going to be very good. Nami, the spell damage goes up. I don't think this matters too much because mostly she's a CC bot anyway. However, this is another mage nerf, or another mage buff on top of Veigar and Vex and Soraka and 7 and 9 mages. So mage is definitely going to be very good. Tark 3 buffed. Nasus, the HP steal is going down. So this is pretty tough. I think Nasus already got nerfed last patch as well. So 2 Nasus nerfs in a row. And then in regards for his traits, Pyro is just going to be more of a splash unit. So Nasus will be splashed more. And then Shapeshifter got a buff. Now, on to Rise. So one of the most popular units right now on 14.16. How to interpret this? So his damage was not changed. It was just his spell targeting. So going down from 4 to 3 for spell targets means that Rise is going to be less of an AoE unit. He'll target backline less often, and it'll be more like a frontline focused unit. So he will definitely do like more like condensed damage, more focused damage to 3 units rather than more like spread out to 4. So that is how Rise is going to be. And if you're same-sided of the enemy Rise, your backline will be targeted less often until your frontline is dead. So just an adjustment to Rise there, nothing too crazy. Now this is pretty crazy. Buffs. So this is going to be the second Briar buff. Initially her AD was already increased, I think from 60 to 65, but at least it was a 5 base AD buff from previous patch. Now her attack speed on transform is getting increased. Her bite ability damage on casts after her initial is being increased as well. Her damage amp per missing health is also being increased, and then also she will be receiving 30 more HP per feed. So insane Briar nerf, or insane Briar buffs here, and then also you have the Shapeshifter buff as well. And technically also our Eldritch buff, but that is for the actual like summon, not the individual units. So I think Briar is going to be very good. Milio mana is being decreased, which is good, and then also his spell damage is going up. So Milio getting a buff. Morgana, her spell damage is getting a buff, and the big thing to note is now her true damage threshold. Now the enemy units only have to be at 33% max health in order for the true damage to activate, instead of going all the way down to a quarter. So I think Morgana is going to be very good, and then also Xerath is getting a spell damage buff as well. So it's great to see a lot of the 5 costs being buffed. Now this will slowly shift more from a reroll centric meta into potential like level 9, like perhaps even fast 9 meta. We'll have to see, but at least 5 costs now are a lot stronger. Alright, so that is all the traits in the units. We're going to move on to more of the items now. I won't go over every single one, but essentially what Moritz was saying for the upcoming meta is that this will be more flexible. A lot of the A and S tier items, the base stats got nerfed. So especially you see like big ones here, like Adaptive Helm, Bloodthirster. These are very S tier items. But then you see items such as like Infinity Edge and Jewel Gauntlet, some of the lower tier items are not being changed at all. So just like item balancing, the very good items are brought down and the bad items are either not changed or get a little bit of a buff, such as like Giant Slayer to the AP. Now moving on to the Radiant ones. So now same thing, the A and S tier Radiant items, the base stats got a nerf. Some main changes here, like Hextech Gunblade, the AD is being increased. AP on the Bloodthirster is being increased as well. This is just like kind of like balancing out compared to their non-Radiant forms, still providing the same stats, but essentially it's the same thing. The very good Radiant items are being nerfed, and then the bad Radiant items, they're just not being changed, or they're buffed a little bit, such as Static Shivs or Static's Favor. So what does this mean, at least for Radiant items? I think now Radiant item, the augments, so like Radiant Refractor and also Radiant Relic will just not be as strong compared to other augments. So that's just something to note. We'll have to check in the stats, but that should be accurate. Okay, so that is for actual items and Radiant items. Moving on to support items and artifacts now. So a change to all support items except for Knight's Vow is now the HP base for the support item is going down 100. So it's actually pretty decent, 100 HP. And then also this is on every support item. So not only will this just affect support items in general, it means that augments such as like Fine Vintage will be getting a lot worse, just because every support item you have will have 100 less HP. And then artifact items, they're just like kind of balancing them. So the kind of weaker ones, I think actually CVS is pretty strong. If you watched the previous video, you would have saw that Warwick with CVS reroll is very, very strong. So that is going to be definitely applicable on this upcoming patch. Fishbones, AD and AS is going up, Gold Collector an extra 10% AD, while the Moguls is going down. So this means like Shimmer Scale, you will not always be selecting Moguls now. Moguls was essentially like an insta-click. Maybe you still will be. One thing to note is in 14.16, the Moguls male health already went down from 200 to 50. So this was only a 50 HP nerf, and you definitely felt it, either farming like 1 less gold per round, or like you're just 50 HP away from getting that 35 stacks. Now the base HP is going down 100. So now from 200 all the way down to 50 is going to be a big hit to Mogul's Mail. And then the very last one, to Prowler's Claw, a little bit more AD and also a lot more crit chance. So it could be playable, especially on some units such as like Olaf. Okay, so those were all the items. Moving on to the augments now. Pretty exciting stuff. AFK, the gold is going up by 2, so pretty good. There is a current bug to combat bandages. I think if you actually check in the stats, silver combat bandages is performing a lot better than gold combat bandages. So maybe it's just the gold one that is bugged, but more described both. So not only is the HP threshold going up, so now this will activate a little bit earlier. Also, the bug fixes to both combat bandages will be fixed in the upcoming patch. So that's something to note. I would make a placebo joke here, but I can't think of any, but this does not do anything unless you think it does. Pumping up, the initial attack speed is going up from 6 to 8%, and then a couple nerfs here. Exiles, the shield is going down per unit, so it's actually pretty decent. Still provide you some bonus frontline and some backline like protection, but only at the very start of the fight. And then also Keeper's 1 nerf gets a second nerf here, so going down from 175 to 160, and then from 160 to 145. Same thing, remember this is like per unit, so it's actually pretty substantial. Now it's gone down from 30 all the way down like 30 value per unit. And then item ladder is temporarily disabled because of bug. Okay, so those were the silvers. Moving on to the gold now, a couple buffs. Ascension, Avenge the Fallen, Clockwork, and then also I mentioned combat bandages. One thing to note is Ascension will no longer appear on 2-1, which is great. This is essentially this was actually always a insta reroll, just because Ascension is just very bad early. You don't have the frontline to sustain the 15 seconds. So this is very good. Nerfs, a golden quest going down from like 3 items to 1 item plus an artifact. This is still a nerf because you're down an extra item. And then you'll see here a couple of the plus hero augments. So we're going to talk about like the Galileo one. There's also like the Nunu and the Rumble one. They're going to just grant 1 less version. So instead of giving you a full 2-star unit, it's only going to give you 2 copies of that unit. Flexible HP per emblem is going down. The Hunting Frenzy execute threshold is going down. Same with Keeper Shield getting its second nerf, similar to the silver version. One adjustment, so Dragon Spirit was bugged also this current patch where it just would not work properly. So now it's been reworked. You will get a Dragon Claw, and then any unit that has a Dragon Claw will gain 100 bonus HP and 10% durability, or DR. Moving on to our second ones, so Potions 201, the AD and AP are being increased. I still don't think this augment will be really takeable. Vertical Witch is not that great compared to a couple patches ago, so so I don't think this is going to be takeable. Pumping up, the initial attack speed is going up as well, so this is pumping up too. Three's Company will be granting 1 more 3 costs, so now this is actually 5 3 costs, and in total gold's worth of 15 gold for a gold augment, so it's actually pretty good. Definitely takeable, especially if you have some 3 cost pairs, because you can see duplicates when you take this augment. And then worth the wait, the round delay has been decreased all the way down to 1 round delay. Couple nerfs here, Molten Caramel and Sweet Tooth. As I mentioned, you're just going to be granted 1 less copy of that unit. And then also Spellblades is getting its second nerf. I provided it here. So it used to be 175 going down to 150, now 150 going down to 120. And if you just compare the numbers, right, this is like 25% AP going down, but now this is going to be 30% AP going down. So this nerf is going to be harder than the previous one. So this is definitely no longer an insta-click into some AP line. Perhaps there will be some better options. Unleash the Bug was also bugged. It used to just give 60%, so now the wording has been changed. So there's no actual change, it's just the wording has been updated. And then Prismatic, a lot of Prismatic augments are being buffed here. So Anger Issues, the resistances are going up. One thing to note for this, you have an insane spike like mid-game, but the main thing with Anger Issues, whether you're playing like Galio or like Warwick or even like multi-strikers, is once you get CC'd, especially late game, any Tom Kenches, any Namis, even like Shens, it really hits the comp hard, or your comp hard. So unless you have like a Banshee's Veil, it's really hard to like place that wall with Anger Issues like above like a 3rd or a 4th. Blossoming Lotus, the crit change has been increased, which is good. Right now, if you were to take Blossoming Lotus, the gold version is a lot better than Prismatic. Final Ascension, the base and ascended damage is going up. And then we have a lot of econ augments getting buffed here. So Going Along gets 5 more gold, Hedge Fund gets 2 more starting gold, Invested gets 9 more gold, Level Up, the initial XP is up by 4, so this is technically 4 more gold. And then also Tiniest Titan and Tiniest Titan Plus, you will now get 2 gold per round, which I think is insane. I will definitely be taking these and then trying to go like fast 9 or something. 2 gold per round is very, very good. However, the initial gold is going down a little bit. In regards of nerfs, Giant and Mighty is receiving its second nerf. So the 2 aspects of Giant Mighty is the actual like base HP increase for your team, and then also the max HP increase for your team as well. It had gone down 25 from 14.16, and now they're targeting the max HP percent, so going down from 5 to 4. Second nerf, HP is still going to be HP. I think it will still be a decent combat augment, just definitely not as broken as it was before. And those are all the augments. And finishing off here with charms, we have a couple of new charms here. So Magic Mirror is going to be an econ one, starting on stage 2 and 3 for 2 gold. You're just going to get a 1-star copy of a random champion fielded last combat. Very good, as long as you're playing like mostly minimum 2 cost units and then 3 cost and 4 cost units. Who knows, you could, if you're playing like a 4 cost unit on stage 4, like random like Nasus or random Callista, you could get a like Callista pair or Nasus pair, but you could also get your like Jax pair if you're playing like 1 cost units, so kind of a risky here, but only 2 gold. Starless Shield is going to be a combat on stage 3 and 4, granting 300 shield to your 1-star champions. This is pretty good. Comfort Food, I think, is very good. So starting at stage 3 and 4 for only 1 gold, not only will you gain 1 player health, but if you lose the next player combat, you're going to gain 2 more. So you can essentially, especially if you're like re-rolling or you have like Fortune or you're trying to go like fast 9 or you're waiting until like 4-2 to roll, you can trade 1 gold for 3 health. That's pretty good. So Comfort Food, definitely pretty good. Scrappy is an item augment, 4 gold, starting at stage 4 plus, 2 champs without items gain a temporary full item. So this is item / like combat. And then they also changed Conjure Artifact, or the artifact one. It used to be Artifactinate, and you would just never take it because you just grief your items for 4 random artifacts that are not guaranteed to be good. So now Conjure Artifact, 2 gold, starting at stage 4 plus, you'll gain a temporary artifact for 1 round, and this can be either insane or it could be useless for your team. Just remember to keep removers as often as possible. If you're playing like Rumble, reroll, and you get dropped like Azanias, then that is extremely good. But if you're playing like Vertical Portal and you get dropped like a Prowler's Claw, well, that doesn't help. So these 2 I'd say are pretty risky, and then the other ones are pretty good. Couple of us here, all 3's gold is going down, all 4's gold is going down. Assembly is getting nerfed. This was really good. I think you'd get plus 4 gold in total, and then also is like 1 copy of each 1 cost unit. Conjure Emblem going down. Moonlight Ritual, this is the stars up your 1 or 2 cost units to the next star. And then Summon Dragon is going down as well. And Ultra Ascension, it would take too long to proc, like 25 seconds. The last 5 seconds of the fight is essentially over. So now I think it's at like Talisman status, where it's 22 seconds in order to proc, and also it doesn't cost any gold to buy now. And then a very last slide for charms, just a ton of buffs to trait specific charms. And then I want to talk about the buffs to the Xerath charms, which are already very good, or at least some of them, but now this is going to be even better. So like Ancient Ritual, I think it used to be like called Rite of Ritual, but its attack speed is going up, Busy Bees attack speed going up, Queen's Gambit going down by 1 gold, Quickening going down by 1 gold, Piece of Cake, Portal Hopping, Pyromania, Spitfire, and Supreme Arcana. These are all the trait specific charm ones that you will find if you're playing like vertical of that specific trait. So all of these are getting buffed because their gold is going down. Chariot is the Xerath charm where now your rerolls cost 1 gold and XP costs less gold. So just going down by 2 is pretty good. Judgment, I think, is pretty insane. You get 4 extra gold if you win, and you get 8 extra effective gold on lose. That is very good. And I'm pretty sure, yeah, this charm is free to buy for the Xerath one. So this is just like an insane amount of gold. If you get Xerath on stage 4, this is basically your free ticket to level 9. The Lovers is you get a 5 cost unit and a 2-star 2 cost version of a unit that shares their similar trait. So just like, once again, more effective gold. The Sun is 1 artifact anvil and 1 support anvil, going down 8 gold for 2 of these. Yes, please. That is very, very good. I'll take that for sure. And then the World is a copy of all 4 cost units. Same thing. I think this was 45 gold. No, sorry, either 44 or 48 gold total because of the 4 cost. So now that it's going down 6 gold, this is just like a lot of effective gold for these Xerath charms. So huge buffs to Xerath charms, and then also the actual unit is being buffed as well as spell damage. Alright, the moment you've all been waiting for, a meta read plus summary. Of course, none of this is backed by stats yet, but just something to note, purely from observation, I think Mage is going to be extremely strong this upcoming patch. Soraka buffs, or Soraka's second buff, so in the early game is going to be very good. Veigar buffs, Vex buffs, 7 and 9 Mage buffs, and also even forgot to add Nami, the Nami buff as well. So buffing an already very good composition just makes compositions even better. So I think Mage is going to be super, super strong. One thing to note that might be coming up, who knows, the Hunter Shapeshifter reroll line. So Nomsy, Twitch, the spell damage was increased at all star levels. Shyvana has 2 buffs now. Nico got a buff, pumping up 1, 2, and 3. Vertical Shapeshifter, and then Briar got quadruple buffs. So perhaps this will be a line. And then the legendary 5 cost board, maybe Fast 9 will be back. Briar, once again, like an insane amount of buffs. Miller got buffed. Morgana got really, really big buffs. Xerath, not only does his charms go up, but his damage goes up. And then there are a lot of prismatic augments that just grant you a lot more econ, such as Going Long, Hedge Fund, Invested, Level Up, Tiniest Titan. So this is something to note for the upcoming patch. Perhaps a couple different compositions or existing compositions that will be very good. And that is it. So I don't even know if I should do a quick recap since we went over things pretty in depth. But a lot of changes to traits and units, items and augments, and also charms, new charms, nerfs to charms, and additional charms. I think that will be the recap. So that'll be everything for now. Make sure you sign up for the Fitgmr Fall Cup. And stay tuned for Thursday's video. I'll be talking about the 5 best cons to play on the new patch 14.17. So 2 more days to climb on the 14.16. Best of luck in your games, and I'll see you all Thursday.